So good.
Is very good. I've got a couple of clips queued up as well. But I want to speak to you about some.
Yeah, so anyways, transitioning into
I was going to say, like, speaking of ripping people off and taking advantage of people, I don't know if you've seen it this week, but the Labour government, absolute failure, as you probably know. And they're not very much liked, but the Labour government have been predominantly since I've been aware of politics, they have been always for the working man, woman, and they've always had the working people.
Yeah, please don't exclude.
Did you just assume my gender?
Yeah, exactly.
And they've always been for the working class, and they've always been anti-establishment, anti-banks, anti-capitalist, if you want to say that, and they've always been about wealth redistribution. That's been the core message of.
Which sounds amazing, right? It's such a good.
Oh, it sounds like everything you probably want from a government in terms of you're gonna they
care about the people.
Exactly. There was, if you go in sort of chronological order from what I was old enough to remember, it started off with Tony Blair and then Gordon Brown, and then it was Ed Miliband and then Jeremy Corbyn and then Keir Starmer. They've not been in. The Conservatives have been in, and coalitions have existed, and so on and so forth, but. Tony Blair, his Labour era 2007 type stuff was always make work pay, introduce the sort of minimum wage, introduce all these things that was affect low income families and low income workers to ensure that they got rightly paid for the work that they were doing and they weren't being taken advantage of. And then Ed Miliband had this phrase which was for the many, not the few. It's okay, cool, following a simple narrative that's quite easy to understand. He always addressed the wealth gap and always addressed the
they always start amazing, and it's not to switch topics, but it's a shame to see. I was listening to Robert F. Kennedy speaking about the Democrats, right? How it's transitioned so much. He's always been on the Democrat Party, but then recently he said that the left is no longer left, extreme left. Yeah, and the right seems to be where everyone with common sense is heading towards. So it's a shame to see that party fade away, and I think it's the same.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think the Labour Party, it used to be for traditional values. Forget left or right, they were for traditional values, and the Conservative Party was usually he was born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You was always sort of had money, born into money. You was in a certain class level. And there's clearly there was a two-party system. He was either left or he was right. And the Labour Party was always looking after the working people. The blue-collar workers, as I think they're referred to in America. But it's all the underlying narrative, I suppose, where I'm going for it is that they were always trying to put money back in people's pockets. Yeah, and they were trying to do everything.
I know where this is going.
But the Jeremy Corbyn had, and he was an absolute idiot, and it still is an idiot in my opinion. His pledge, or in all of his manifestos, was put money in your pocket for like minimum wage, free education, the usual boring stuff. Boring. And then obviously Keir Starmer follows suit. The puppet, the man, had this to say.
Growing the economy, making sure everybody feels better off, by which I mean more money in your pocket, is the number one mission of this government. So
yeah, sounds excellent, right? Is it a reflection of what's happening?
Yeah, broken record. I mean, follow suit. That's exactly what he said. It's a typical video. He's stood in a big factory with loads of factory workers around him. And he's, I'm just going to play it one more time because I really love that he was able to give me this soundbite.
Growing the economy, making sure everybody feels better off, by which I mean more money in your pocket, is the number one mission of this government.
Is the number one mission of this government. Let's make it clear. Putting more money in your pocket is the number one mission of this Labour government. That's Keir Starmer.
Okay, let's reverse engineer then. What has gone wrong then?
So what's happened this week?
Yeah.
So as we know, Sentinel Legal does car finance claims. We are consumer champions. We're all about
the best of the best.
Best of the best.
The Lakers of the industry.
cue some inspirational music, let's get it going, Top Gear. Rachel Reeves has come out, she's obviously from the Treasury, Labour.
What would you like an individual, a consumer, a household, what do you want them to think of your budget?
I've done everything in my power to protect ordinary working people.
Labour government, and she has, just to recap for everyone who's watching and doesn't really know what's happened, the Court of Appeal, the Johnson case headed up by Kevin Durkin, HT Law, shout out Kevin.
Yeah.
He won that case by an absolute landslide, a unanimous decision. The Court of Appeal basically said, no, car commissions are completely wrong, it's unfair, it's not transparent. Absolutely threw the book at the car finance lenders. Car finance lenders obviously wanted to appeal that.
Mm-hmm.
They took it to permission to appeal to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court have granted permission to appeal, and that's going to go ahead between the 1st of April and the 3rd of April 2025, so in
Amazing.
Literally 3 months. And so as you're getting ready for the court, as you're getting ready for this, everyone wants to sort of throw their 10 pence in, have their moment in the limelight, and really distract from what we're genuinely talking about. So far the FCA have intervened. I think the FLA have intervened. There's about 5 interventions altogether.
What is the FLA?
Finance and Leasing Association. They represent a lot of the car finance lenders and the car dealerships and stuff like that.
Right, okay.
So anyway, there was 4 up until Monday, but the 5th one was a shocking one because it was the Treasury, and the Treasury, the Labour government, Rachel Reeves, have come out and sided with the banks, and they've sided with the banks to essentially, in a black and white opinion, they've sided with the banks because they don't want anyone to have any compensation, but they've come out with a multitude of unfounded reasons, completely against everything that we've just discussed prior to this build-up, the whole manifesto of the Labour government, putting money back in people's pockets.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, is this not the same party who are against the banks, not necessarily on a straight line, but definitely from financial situation to, as you said, like put money on people's pockets?
Exactly. And what's actually interesting about this is the Financial Times published an article on Monday, right? And no one knew that the Treasury had even intervened, but it had been leaked to the press.
Oh, wow.
So no one knew.
That's
I woke up on
different
Tuesday
layer.
and was like, whoa, what's going on? What's everyone talking about? So obviously trying to find out as much information. Financial Times ring up the office and they're saying, oh, well, can we get a comment on this? I'm like, what? You're going to have to give me a minute because I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So the Labour government, the Treasury, have not only come out and intervened in something that directly impacts the great British public and will put literally billions of pounds into the economy through putting money back into people's pockets through the car finance compensation.
Play clip again.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. We'll play that clip again.
Growing the economy, making sure everybody feels better off, by which I mean more money in your pocket, is the number one mission of this government.
So they've come out and gone and sided with the banks, and it says in the Financial Times, it says if the Treasury is successful, it will deal a blow to consumer groups and claims management companies that have been encouraging car finance customers to file complaints to the Financial Ombudsman. So that they've done this. Lloyd's share price went up 4%. Close Brothers share price went up 21.6% because they were massively affected. But what no one can understand is in everything that they've done, everything that they've said, it looks like it's not been researched. So they've addressed a couple of points, and it's gone through. We actually wrote a letter to.
Yeah, I have it right in front of me.
You've got the letter. So Sentinel put a letter out yesterday just on our opinions on what's actually happened. And it addresses I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points that was raised in this whole intervention. And we'll just start so they've said we've said there's a lack of legal standing on relevance. It's speculative economic claims and lack of evidence, which we'll go into in a minute. The judicial independence, that it raises a massive point on that. The UK is built around a strong, robust, impartial, unbiased, uninfluenced judicial system, a legal system.
How it should be, right?
Yeah, exactly how it should be, unless you're in a third world country. And But that's one of the things that makes the UK such an investable place. It's why businesses choose to set up here, or it used to be why businesses set up here, because it was black and white. The law was followed. It's very clear. This is a regulation. This is the law. This is what you can do. This is what you can't do. And if you break any of them, you'll go to court and you'll be tried, and the law will be interpreted properly, and remediation.
You've been a bad boy.
Yeah, exactly. Bad boys. And when you really start to step back and unpack what the Labour government has done, I personally think they've just completely shafted all of the voters, the few voters that voted for them.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, I think what we're probably going to see now is like the end of the Labour Party, not through car finance claims. That would be stupid.
This has just shined a light on the problem. Basically.
Yeah, it's shined a light on the true. What they are truly going to do and what they think of the average consumer. This is a very, very easy way, at no cost to the government, to put money back in people's pockets and to put a significant amount of money back into the economy.
Yeah, and I think that this is going to be a major problem because, as you said, people who are affected by this are clearly going to move from the left to the right. And the only people that are going to be left there are people that just want to hold on to their opinion, right? What we're seeing with the US, just because you hate Trump,
correct,
I'm left.
Yeah,
it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, exactly. But like the I think the slogan in the US was like "Blue no matter who," wasn't it?
Yeah, but come on, like this is someone that is going to represent the country. You should strongly agree with their opinion.
Well, I think it just shows that you're willing to lie. Yeah. Because, I mean, we've done the calculation, and we did it as something like, there's a thing called an economic multiplier. So for every £1 spent, it's actually worth about, depending on like how aggressive you want to be, between £1.50 and £1.75, if not double. Mm-hmm. Because I buy something for £1, you then can go and buy something for £1. That pound is taxed. It's taxed at my end. It's taxed at your end. It's then, you might go and buy You might buy a
coffee. Or,
but you might buy fuel, which is heavily got a lot of fuel duty on it. You might buy cigarettes, it's got cigarettes duty on it. You've got alcohol, that's got duty on it. So the £1 that goes into the economy is actually worth like £1.50 to £2 to the government because of the way it's taxed and the things that people buy on a day-to-day basis. So it's within a massive...
And it's everywhere as well,
Everywhere.
Right? Everywhere.
Sales tax.
From your bread to your...
100%. But from a law firm's perspective as well, you go, well, all right, you're going to earn a load of profit. That's going to incur corporation tax. You're going to pay your staff with it. That's national insurance, payroll tax, etc., etc. So put in, 40, 50 billion, 100 billion, whatever that figure comes out to in compensation, it's actually worth probably 200, 250, 300. It could, the economic multiplier effect is massive to the government. Massive. Yeah. So for them to come out and base this intervention on, it's going to make... They've tried to say that it's going to make the UK uninvestable, it's going to destabilise the car finance market, it's going to make cars more... less affordable to...
It's going to make America great again.
It's going to make cars less affordable to working class people and so on. And anyway, you really have to start unpacking it, and none of it makes sense. But the biggest one I wanted to sort of draw attention to was PPI. And I think for most people who listen to this, they'll know what PPI was. Mm-hmm. And it was the biggest sort of mis-selling scandal in sort of British history. That's so led to believe. I don't know if that's 100% true, but basically the PPI was something like 53 billion was paid out. 53 billion. And it was a lot less significant than this because you got it when you took out a mortgage, you got it when you took out a credit card. People didn't know they had it. People spent money on the credit card and then they was paying like a couple of quid a month or whatever on this PPI policy. It didn't impact people's daily lives is what I'm trying to say. But in car finance mis-selling and the car finance claims like we've seen, like we talked about last week, you could be paying 10 grand's worth of interest on your car. You find out like 40-50% of that is paid as a commission. So therefore that means that your monthly payments could have been cheaper. And I think your car finance repayment is probably your second biggest outlay behind your rent or your mortgage.
Definitely.
You know, so to say that you're going to knock £50, £75, £100 a month off someone's car finance policy that they have on average 3 to 4 years is a significant impact onto people who are sort of vulnerable, low income,
Absolutely. I mean,
mid income.
You tell anyone if they could save just £50 a month in shopping, that would be amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be like, yeah, I'm signing up for that.
So for Rachel Reeves and the HM Treasury to come out and intervene in favour of the banks, we're just kind of seeing a big lie unfold here to what they actually care about. And the PPI one, the PPI was massive. It didn't destabilize the economy. There's actually facts and figures out there to say that it actually helped us pull out of a recession after the financial crisis. Yeah.
How come?
Because the amount of money, 38 billion or 53 billion, went back into the economy.
Mm-hmm.
So people who spent money.
Right. Okay.
You know, they went on holidays, they went out to eat, they bought clothes, they bought TVs, they bought houses. You know, they didn't buy houses, but they bought cars. You know, they bought surplus items that ultimately they would never have bought because they didn't have the money. But 53 billion is actually credited to being about I think the redress or something was accounted for 3% of GDP. I'll find it and I'll link it through, but it's 3% of GDP, which is mental.
Yeah, it makes you just rethink the whole money structure, right? If there's been such a big loss and it's somehow helped the economy.
Yeah. And
how?
Yeah, exactly. And it was the biggest consumer redress scheme in UK history, and it didn't destabilize financial markets as the Treasury is saying and as Rachel Reeves is saying. It didn't harm investor confidence into the UK. You know, it actually introduced a lot of positive things to clean things up and make things a lot more disclosed and transparent, and it didn't restrict access to credit. It didn't restrict access to finance for people. You know, there was all of these stupid things that happened, that they're saying happened and they didn't happen. And what they're also saying is that the big one is that they're going to make this would make car finance less accessible, and it would make cars more expensive. But the Finance and Leasing Association, the FLA, you can check this out, in the 12 months leading up to November 2024, guess how many new cars were financed first in the 12 months leading up to November 2024?
No idea.
So
tell me.
new cars, 625,000 new cars were financed in the 12 months leading up to November 2024. Do you know how much that finance was worth?
How much?
17.6 billion. That's just on new cars. So then on used cars, there was 1.4 million used cars financed in the 12 months leading up to November 2024. 21.3 billion in finance.
Wow.
So you've got a combined borrowing in motor finance of 38.9 billion.
Wow.
In the 12 months leading up to November in 2024.
So for anyone listening, what would you say the main points then are between PPI and the motor finance industry? Well,
I think the main point is that we need to draw a comparison to is that PPI was the biggest redress scheme in British history.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it accounted for tens of billions of pounds, tens of billions of pounds.
Collectively, all of us knew it was a massive problem.
Yeah, it was the biggest one. It was the biggest one ever seen. It didn't destabilize the market. It didn't make the UK unattractive to investors.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't limit access to credit for the vulnerable or the people who would otherwise not be able to get credit.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't increase prices. You know, nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
Besides, people got more money. They spent it on crap. They bought TVs and clothes and everything that no one needs, a lot of. And it stimulated the economy to the point where it actually helped us, or is credited. It's not me saying this, it's other people.
Yeah,
it's credited, go on Google, type it in. It's credited with bringing us out of a financial crisis. And the whole premise of the intervention is that this is going to destabilize the market. It's going to make the UK uninvestable. It's going to make cars more expensive. It's going to stop people accessing finance. And. It's all nonsense. She's lying for her teeth. Lying for her teeth. And the next point that I want to this is worse than the first one. In what world can a failing government, a woke government such as the Labour Party, who's supposed to side with the average blue-collar worker, the consumer. They're supposed to be there to protect the consumer, who's been taken advantage of by all these car finance lenders, the banks. We're talking Lloyds Bank, who own Black Horse. We're talking Santander, who do Santander Motor Finance, Close Brothers, all of these. In what world can the UK government come out and intervene in a private individual's case in the Supreme Court?
Yeah.
We're not talking about a government entity that's being tried. We're not talking about any form of government body or regulatory body that's going in the Supreme Court. You're talking about Mr. Marcus Johnson, who is taking FirstRand Bank to court for the unfair relationship, fiduciary duty. He's already won in the Court of Appeal.
Mm-hmm.
He's now gone to the Supreme Court, and the government now thinks that it's okay to meddle on unfounded basis. So that's the biggest one. They are trying to influence, and it comes out in the Financial Times. I'll link the Financial Times article if you've got a subscription to see it. Check it out.
That's crazy. You need to have subscriptions.
Exactly. So, but the biggest one is they are trying to influence the courts. So therefore, the courts wouldn't be impartial. They wouldn't be able to interpret the law as these 5 Lord Justices have spent their entire career being men of the law, interpreting the law down to the minutiae of evidence. It's a 3-day trial. Claimants, defendants, they've all got to have an appropriate amount of time to argue their case, to get the points across in favour of Mr. Marcus Johnson. Obviously, Hopcraft and Wrench are in there as well. But Mr. Marcus Johnson, I'm just going to use this case in point, they've got to argue for and against. It's a private individual. It's a private British citizen. Why is the government trying to influence? Why is the government trying to put their oar in the mix to say, listen, Supreme Court Lord Justices, who are men of law, we think you should do this? In what world is that okay? In what world is that okay? If you're going to do it, don't tell the world about it by putting it in Financial Times. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I think when you start to unpack the entire scenario here, you go, wow, yeah, we're talking like third world antics here. The UK government's trying to influence the highest court in the country. And if it was, let's use a Trump and Biden analogy that's just happened. If this was a Biden or a Trump government doing it, it'd be all over the press. It'd be all over TikTok. It'd be all over Instagram. It'd be everywhere. Like, wow, they're trying to influence the courts.
Especially if it's Trump.
Yeah, they're trying to influence the courts. And that's exactly what the Labour government are doing now with the Treasury, trying to intervene in this matter. And they're also saying that like little things like smaller lenders might go out of business, and it would force brokers and dealers to not lend as much and be a lot more selective, which would be discrimination.
Why do you think they're trying to pump all of this fear into the market?
Why?
Yeah.
Because they're puppets.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've tried to unpack it a million times to think of why would they do this.
Because
can't.
For your average person, they're probably freaking out, right?
Well, I think it's wobbled the market for sure. I think, the second the government gets involved, they're not to be messed with. Anyone can make an intervention, but if you're a car finance lender, if you're a representative of the car finance industry, it would be seen as, you clearly don't want this to happen because it's going to hurt your pocket. But when the government gets involved, that's when the conspiracy theories start happening. That's where for me, it's a red flag. It goes, well, okay, what's going to go on? Why is the government getting involved? What have they got to lose? Who's controlling the government? What conversations have happened in Number 10? And
that I don't know about.
Yeah. Why would a Labour government that is for the people and has ran with a narrative of putting money back in the consumer's pocket, all of a sudden do a full 180 and go, yeah, we're going to side with the banks this time? Because they didn't do it with PPI. No one intervened with PPI. No one came out and said PPI was going to crash the economy if you did this. This is completely unprecedented. And this is what makes you think, well, what? Have you really thought about what you are doing here? Have you really done your due diligence and your homework to go, actually, this is probably I mean, I'll rewind to sort of when the Labour government came in.
Mm-hmm.
When the Labour government came in sort of June 2024, we wrote a letter saying, this is all of our evidence. We wrote it to Angela Rayner, who's the Deputy Prime Minister. And we sent it in June, mid-June. And we said, this is all of our evidence. This is our average redress. This is what we think the average compensation is based off the wins that we've had in court. We said, this is going to be amazing. You know, because the Labour Party said that, oh, there's a £22 billion deficit, and they blamed the Conservative Party and said this is, you know, financial mismanagement and they've ruined the country. So we wrote to them like really positive. We've got a solution. This is our maths. Here's all of our workings. Here's all of our evidence. You can do it. No problem. And it was like a 7-page letter saying this is how you can release a load of money back into the economy, back into the people's stuff. It was taxed. It worked out the economic factor. We had accountants do it, the lot.
Did they get back to you?
Not even an acknowledgement. Not even an acknowledgement. It was unbelievable. So we sent it to them, and obviously we didn't get any response, but now they've come out and clearly said no wonder they didn't respond, because they were never for us in the first place. But it's just shocking, and I think the conclusion is that the Treasury is arguing that it's speculative. Treasury's arguments are speculative, like they're not supported by any evidence. There's loads of inconsistencies with it, and I think when you really look beyond the headlines and look into what's actually happening, you're going to try and tell the UK government is going to try and tell the Supreme Court with 5 law justices what to do and how to do it and how to do their job. But when they are probably at the peak of their career, I don't think you can go much higher than being a law justice on the Supreme Court. You know, I just don't think it's going to wash. And I think it's very much a spin doctor PR angle. It's obviously got the entire industry talking. It's probably wobbled the industry from the consumer's perspective, because everyone was so bullish after the Court of Appeal, the win. But I think when you really like look at it and start to go, okay, what's actually happening here? I think it's just spin. I think this is the banks, considering all of the interventions are from the car finance side, and there's not one intervention from the consumer side. I think that's telling.
Yeah.
You know, they're scrambling to do whatever they can to try and be seen to be getting support.
Putting anything they can together, yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, you've got, you know, the guys representing Mr. Johnson, Devereux Chambers, and, you know, Kevin Durkin and consumer rights solicitors, and HD Law, that they're not phased. You know, they're not scrambling around to get into people to intervene. They've got the evidence. You know, they've got all of the mis-selling. They've got exactly what's going on. They've got a Court of Appeal judgment to back them up, which is the leading binding authority on car finance claims in the country at the moment. And people seem to forget that. You know, we did an article just at the start of this week where we found 46% of a commission, a FirstRand Bank commission, was paid of interest was paid to the dealer as compensation.
46%.
Yeah, I mean, the Yahoo Finance have picked it up, City AM have picked it up, Financial Times are running with it. So, you know, it's completely you can spin as many unresearched arguments as you want, but I just need to go through
the facts that
I go through one of our case files of one of our wins, and we'll go, there you go, 46 point. I think it was like, let me find it now. Something. Where is it? 46%. Something like 46%. So yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It was. Where is it? Come on. Yeah, 44% of the interest charge was paid as a commission, and that was against FirstRand Bank, who the Johnson case is against. So, I think the summary is, or the conclusion here is that a lot of the stuff is completely unfounded. It's very poorly researched. They never did it with PPI. There's a lot of historical examples of how this doesn't affect the UK economy and the investability of it. But more importantly, as per the Finance and Leasing Association's numbers, the 12 months to November 2024, 38.9 billion was lent in car finance. Wow. So the fact that they've banned these commission models in 2021, they're lending 38.9 billion. In what way is that a bad market? You know, if there was ever going to be any problems, the problems would have happened in 2021, 22. They banned DCA commissions in March 2021. So you would assumed all of 2021 would have been a bad year.
Yeah.
You know, the Johnson judgment was delivered by the Court of Appeal in October, 25th of October 2024. Lenders paused car finance lending for about 4 days, I think.
Do you think all of this is going to affect for the next elections?
Well, I mean, if I've got anything to do with it, yeah, 100%. I'd be. Obviously, we're doing a podcast completely slating the Labour government. I think they don't stand for what they originally stood for. I think this is an absolute FU to the British public. I mean, the FCA have come out and said 31.7 million agreements are affected. That's nearly 50% of the British population. And you've got your government saying, no, we don't want you to have your couple of thousand pounds worth of compensation. We'd rather the banks keep it because they've already robbed you of it. So I think, in terms of the next election, I don't care what happens off the back of this. I think the Supreme Court will do what the Supreme Court's good at and what they're there for, and is interpret the law.
Yeah.
If they decide it's for or against the consumer, then that's their job. They are the experts.
Yeah.
They are the only qualified people in the country to make that decision, and that's why it's gone to the Supreme Court. So whatever they say goes. But in terms of what the Labour Party have done, this is, for me, I think is. If it was the Reform Party who seem to be storming now, I'd be like, yeah, there you go, Nigel. Just so you know, this is what they did. Try and spin that into something, because they're so clearly out of touch with who their voters are now, that they're prepared to, leave, in my opinion, what is a £100 billion compensation scheme in the bank's hands and not in the consumer's hands. And I think this would just be such an easy win, easy votes. Look at what we've done. We've bollocked the banks. We've told them what to do. Such an obvious win. Like, you don't have to be a politician to go, yeah, you know what? This will probably get us votes. And I would make this my PR campaign. I'd be all over social media saying, we're going to hold the banks accountable. You're going to get your compensation. Let's face it, making a car finance claim is probably in 2025 is probably the easiest way to make money. Easiest way, if everything goes to plan. So, there we go.
Yeah, it's like literally a 5-minute process.
Yeah, exactly. And not to mention the fact they're trying to meddle in a private individual's affairs. So, that's basically
I'm very interested.
What happened this
very
week.
Interested to see how this will affect the elections.
Growing the economy, making sure everybody feels better off, by which I mean more money in your pocket, is the #1 mission of this government. So
I think that's a great way to end the podcast.
It's amazing. I'm going to keep playing that. I'm making my ringtone.
Thank you.